Hey there, everybody. We're going to try this again. Somehow the mute button was pressed on my mic and completely nuked everything that had to do with sound, which is less fun. Now, there's some paint on the base here because I just didn't really realize there was no sound. This dwarf is from Mantic Miniatures, Kings of War, right here. So I'm going to show you what we used on the base. This is from Green Stuff World. You've seen me using the texture rollers, right? You can see right there we got a little bit of hey, Fruity Toots. Okay, wow, look at that. We got a chat. Do we have sound? And I have sound. Yes. Well, I just finished recording a video for what, 2.5 hours doing these guys right here. This is also from Mantic. That's a Reaper Bones. Just finished all of this recording and then I go to do this and there's no sound. And that's because when I was transferring all that data, somehow the mute button was pressed. Skulls here. Well, sorry to Bethany. I hope she can get back into this. Thanks for stopping by, Fruity Toots. It's been crazy for everybody in the universe right now. But again, we're going to be working on these flaming skulls here, and we've got our fluorescents out here. So great to see you. I hope things are, well, maybe not super crazy. Well, that's kind of things are just going to be super crazy. That's just how it is now. But I've been having to work on a lot of commission things and stuff just to try and make up for the loss of Adepticum. But what we're going to try and do is make up for some lost time by getting back into this. You can see we had done some glazes here. That is transparent red, purple, brown, black. We have a couple of opaques over here. I'm going to grab these for you. Also from ProAcryl, I think these are actually two of the newer colors. I think they actually just went on the website today, maybe. And well, now that that's actually starting to dry a little bit, I can actually start to think about, we'll get some glazes on him and then we'll stick him on that base too. Now, we're going to think along the same lines here. We are going to work here. We're going to get a little bit of purple into this too, just for the heck of it. We're going to do some glazes now. With the nice thing with the transparent paint, as opposed to say something like contrast paints, you can just use water. Now the primer is this right here. So just some Steino Res, and we're going to augment that now like so. And you see we got a little bit of purple in there. We are going to let that change a little bit. Got some of the transparent brown in there. Also going to be using some of my makeup sponges. Like so, and if anything weird happens again with well, probably not with sound because I'm guessing that mute button's not going to get pressed again. Well, that was unfortunate because I was really liking what you could have been able to see with the base and how that was painted. But for right now, we are just going to get some, and I'm focused more on the lower half of him here. So yeah, we're gonna go back to the transparent brown over here. And all I want to do is just get these glazes on him here. And we'll set him aside, let that stuff dry, and then we're going to get back into our base again. Now, I told you about makeup sponges. That would be one of these. We were using one of these on the base, and you can see we're wiping some of this away. Another advantage of the ProAcryls versus, say, the contrast paints, because with those, you don't really want to be doing stuff like that. So I just cut up the sponge into some smaller pieces. That's going to let me do is to be a little more targeted with some of that paint removal. So we're not just darkening things. We are, but we're doing a little more than that. Oh, let's go with some of this right, boom, here. We'll let that mix with some of our existing colors there. Again, if I need it to flow a little bit more, then I'll just throw in a little bit more water. I'm even gonna go a little bit more towards my orange here, like so. And then we're gonna go back the other way, like that. Back to our sponge. We'll take some of this away. Take some of that away. Now I'm going to go back to this one over here. Again, this is the Reaper Bones figure. So we're looking to do almost exactly the same thing that we did here. Oh, Fruity Toots disappears. I have the internet people working on the lines. Well, thanks again for stopping by, even if it is just a brief one. And I'm hoping to do a whole bunch more of these now. I think we've got this all stabilized. So you can see we're just setting up the backdrop of all of our lighting there. And I'll keep bringing these out periodically for you to see. So I'm going to go back. Whoops, don't want me holding that. Now this is a resin cast right here. Again, it is from Mantic. And it's so I'll just show you this right here. So there we go. So he's a dwarf steel juggernaut. Uh-oh. Miniatures, conversions, and dioramas by Frankie is in the house. Well, welcome aboard. Yeah. This is like your second stab at it because I did try to do a stream for about 5 minutes and there weren't no sound, which was mystifying because I went, well, wait a second, how is that even possible? I just recorded literally 2.5 hours of video and ended it moments before I went onto the stream. I even had to switch the palette and everything. I was like, what is going on here? So we're going to go up to about there. We're going to get out a sponge again here. Like so. I'm focusing, you can see, mostly these areas that kind of are pointing underneath this. So again, a variety of the browns, purples. Yeah, let's do this too. Let's just get this guy. You know what? I am also going to throw out a little bit of the transparent blue somewhere. A little bit of it like that. A little bit of it like that. Let's do, there we go. Yeah, this is not the most exciting part of him here. I just wanted to get through this real quick. This is sort of that messy stage, that initial glazes and shaded base coat that you guys see in every single video. That horrible part where everything looks super messy, but is also the part where we set everything else up. That happens later. So once again, we've got ourselves lots of dark messy glazes, which we sort of attack here with the sponge. And we're doing more than just augmenting the shading here. We're also giving it a little bit of a tint, so you can start to see there's already some color going on here, and all we're doing... Oh, hey, Ben. How's it going? Yeah, this is playing off of those other... I'm going to get my little bit of brightness in there, and I just want to make sure we got you focused there. Working with the ProAcryls again, although I cannot confirm nor deny that some Reaper paints might be used in this here video. Now I'm going to go back here. Let's add a little bit of that here, some of the transparent. This essentially serves sort of like a brown and blue liner for, well, for Ben and other folks that have seen all the Patreon videos before. I've gotten really good at the messy and horrifying stage. Yeah, that to get to the nice and happy stage. Yeah, that is always the... What is that? That's the trick, is to go from the messy and horrible to structured and pretty, I guess. So again, we're mixing, letting some of the brown get in there. Here, let's go right back to that. And you're going to see me like I did with those figures that I just keep flashing in front of you before, you'll see me working with not just light versus dark. I think object source lighting, it's light versus dark. Well, there's an awful lot of color temperature, color saturation. Color temperature, it's nothing fancy about that. It's just, is it warm or cool? Does it have more yellows or reds? Does it have more blues or greens? Whatever. I'm gonna go back in with a sponge. Gotta be a little more careful over there. Again, this is resin. We don't want to be, if I start snapping off parts in the middle of this, well, then a crazy evening turns into an even more crazy evening. So we are gonna let him dry somewhere else. We'll go back to our base here. So all we had done, it was pretty simple. We had just kind of done some little bit of glazing like this. Let's do some more. Now that this is dried a bit, now that that's dried, you can do a little bit more. Now, I also have another tutorial like this. Hey, Bethany's back, and it has sound. It's been confirmed. Now, I'm gonna try and get this thing out here. This is another 3 live sessions that we did, and you'll remember this. So this is the same thing that we're trying here, but that's with a different Green Stuff World roller. Again, that's 3 episodes. I am going to link. So that's another thing too. At the end of these videos, lately I've been trying to give you links to not just the, oh gosh, what are they called? The end screens, right? I do that all the time with every video. But what I'm trying to do now is get you guys some more just regular old links. And I'm going to shoot you a link to those other ones that involve this kind of object source lighting. Now, we've got our darker version of that. Let's see if we can't go a little lighter. So that is the yellow. And we're going to take some of that opaque, to try and make that a little less of the cream color. And boom, right in the old eyes there. So you can look at, I mean, check that out. That's pretty crazy. Oh, you just got the Chimera colors. Brody is here. So, well, I'm now. You didn't get caught up in the first stream where there was no sound and I had to kill it? I hope. But I'm glad you are here. Yeah, last night was just a little too crazy. I was trying to paint the mountain that rides. Yes, so it was a busy evening, very busy. This things have, well, it's, I thought they had stabilized completely, but they still got pretty crazy. They still got really nuts. So while I'm letting that dwarf dry over there, we are messing around with some of our lighting on our bases here, or our base. Again, the Green Stuff World texture sheets and the Green Stuff World skulls. Oh, let's throw in a little lighting over here too. Let's let that catch some. So I've got the lava basing videos. There's you can tell that object source lighting is, well, I would call it a favorite. Others would call it an obsession. I'm thinking that's okay by me. I'm okay with that. Here, let's get some more. Let's get some more of this. And I also wanted to try and use some of the fluorescents in my metals. I did that with the Lizardman Blood Bowl team. I was using the fluorescent paints, and some of those worked their way into the metals. You don't really notice it. It's not quite like this. You're doing a little different effect with that, but I think you can see what I mean. Now, here's another thing too. So, something you see a lot with people that are trying to do object source lighting. Oh, I always for that waiting all day, but glad it's working now. I'm really glad you were able to kind of forge through that, because boy, how many times have I told you I'm going to do this stream and you're like, what's going on? Where is it? So here's the thing, like here we have enough dark to sort of make that light look lighter, but here we got to do something more like this. And I was just, oh gosh, I don't know how many times I said it on that video that I was just filming, but if you're working on something and no matter how much light color you add, it still doesn't look light, add some darks. And all of a sudden your light stuff is going to look real light. Just like we did there. See how that augments our lighter tones. We are going to do that here. Look at this, is another reason I like to use the big old brushes here, because I can have a brush with a tiny tip like that. This is a number 8 round craft brush here. But look, if I go like this on its side, now it's like a 5/8 inch brush. Really cool. What I am going to do is play with a little bit of that. That's that green, that pale green. But over here, see, while that's still wet, look at what's happening here. Oh, Ben, super hyped for the OSL. Tried to hand it, and it was a horror show. Well, it was for me. First couple times I tried it too. It did sort of vaguely looked OSL-ish, maybe. Now here again, we're going on the side of this now. See, we're letting the runes show through, but we've got this buffer zone right there of the darker colors. Yeah, we can double down on this too. Here, let's get our little busted up piece. Yeah, that I think another reason why I do it so often, aside from my very healthy obsession with it, is I'm trying to do it with different methods, different figures, on bases, multiple light sources, different color light sources. So those 3 figures that I keep flashing in front of you, the 2 Mantic figures and the 1 Bones miniature, that was all from one video. The whole idea is, now I've done Patreon series or army painting series with all OSL figures. Gosh, I think I've done 2 of them already. But I hadn't done different colors like that, and the idea was to show you more what a kind of a regular work session is like. Now, most regular work sessions don't involve me fighting with a microphone and a mute button. That's for sure. That was no fun, man. Let's just say it's a good thing that I killed the stream when I did, because there would have been a lot of uncompatible YouTube metaphors. Yeah, there was some tidy metaphors going on that definitely YouTube would have not really liked very much. But we're just gonna say we'll get this to a certain degree here, and we can always then tone it back down. I don't want to go too far with that till we get the miniature on there, and that's what we are going to do wherever the heck he's at. Not quite sure what I did with, there he is. I think I have glue here. So let's do that. Let's just get a little bit of this here on. Just a simple paper clip as a pin. Where's my, there we go. Let's just get him glued in there. And we'll just pause for a few seconds. And the edges on that orange are so glowy. Mine all dried like like paint. It's, well, now you're using the fluorescent paints? I'm sure, right? You must be using those. Well, even those, I didn't know how to use it when I first started using those. I think you know the story that when I first got those, they were on clearance on one of the websites where I bought miniature supplies and paint and that sort of thing. And then I noticed those were on clearance, and I said, "Wow, I'm never going to use them." But it's 89 cents a jar for stuff that's normally $4 or $5. I got them, but then I'm using them for object source lighting. Then I'm using them for a whole bunch more. I'm using them for sky earth. I'm using them for golds and all kinds of other stuff. So, yeah, that was. You never know when that sort of transformation is going to happen in your painting. I mean, it was, well, the oils, when I just happened to see, oh, it was a Facebook Live episode years ago. We're talking, good grief, over 3 years now, probably ago. And I saw one of the Korean painter friends of mine. He was doing a he was painting. I think it was it was T35. That's right, big old T35, and he was using clearly oil paints. I mean, it said Winsor Newton on the tubes, and I said I too like oil paint, and I have also used oil paint. Now, not on miniatures. It was one of those it comes in pints moments, and I said I need to explore this option. So again, we are gonna take our sponge. We remove the paint. It does a couple of things. It gives us a bit more shading, but it also gives us some tinting. Here, let's do our boom over here and there, like you do. Oh, let's just get some shadows in here like you do. And then go in here with some more of my darker. Hey, Tyler. Now, how are you doing? Obviously, that's. I mean, we asked that question kind of anyway, just out of habit, right? But now the question really means something, because it's going to mean something different for everybody. I ask that too, so hopefully everybody who's watching this is okay. I will. I'm gonna try and do as many of these as I can because, uh, well, your eyeballs are mine now in a way because you're trapped in my world. It's like Twilight Zone with miniatures. It's just all miniatures all the time. But now you have a psychotic person painting them for hours at a time, making you have to think about all these weird and wacky things that you never thought about before. Yeah, let's fill that sucker in right there. So you can see we're already starting to set up some of that glow. Now, in addition to just setting up the lights and darks as soon as possible, we try and get that object source lighting set up as soon as possible. We'll start with the axe here because that's a bit on the drier side. We're going to be talking about how the object source lighting affects, say, metal surfaces versus cloth. There's really no skin here. There's really no cloth. It's just basically all metal. Basically all metal. But that is, here's our example. So you can see now that we've got a figure on the base, you can see we've gotten pretty far along to where our skulls were there. There's going to be more added to that. But now what do we got to do? We've got to do this stuff in here. That's what's going to happen over there. It's going to happen up here. It's going to happen onto that axe. Key thing, though, as always, you got to remember that, well, you can't have the glow effect be the same intensity all the way up here as it is right where the skulls are. So that's why you can see we're starting that off a little bit on the more of a reddish glow side instead of super bright. Bright? I am not trying to imitate some weird British accent right there. I think that's just, well, that's fatigue. Oh, Tyler's gone. I'm looking to attempt a statue, make it look like it's been painted, but the paint is sort of to chip off. Actually, funny you should mention that. I don't know if I've got the. It's one of my tutorials I want to do is a what would you got fresco, right? Because frescoes sometimes they all have that cracked look, right? Like they're sort of peeling or about to peel. I was thinking of crackle paint. So I paint the whatever it is, well, like your statue, right? And if you mix in some crackle paint with your paint as you paint the statue, it might reduce the amount of cracking just enough so that instead of getting these massive gaps, like a lot of people use that stuff on a base, maybe, right, to get the crackle effect, that cracked earth effect. Well, you're not trying to do a cracked earth. You just want to have, well, flaky paint, and that thing has been on my to-do list. That particular little trial there for years. I've got 5 different whatchamacallit, Crackle, no, 6 different companies worth of Crackle mediums now. So I think I got enough to try it. And I actually have used that stuff on a few bases. So that is my suggestion right there. If you're looking for suggestions, I'd give that a shot. So again, got to think, where is this going to go? You could actually take a little bit of a flashlight. Now, I don't think I have my little flashlights in my pocket anywhere, but you could just shine a little flashlight there. I know Kathy, for the charity auction stuff that we're still doing with Table War, that autism charity there. Well, she actually put it on top of one of our electric candles and use that to assess where some of the glow should be. So before we mess with any of this other stuff, right? We're trying to figure out, where does that glow, where does that need to reside? Because, well, here's the thing. Oh, well, let me know how that works. I'm sorry I don't have an actual tutorial right now for you to check out, but that is an idea. Oh man, I've had that for so long, and I've really been itching to try that. It's hilarious. You'll get to try it before me. I think so. Like I said, I do have a project that's set up for that, but there's some other things I got to get to first, just because. Well, just because. Let's move on. Maybe a couple other. Let's just let that dry for a little bit. And okay, we got all these other cool colors, right? I was talking about color contrast and cool versus warm. Well, you can't get much cooler and more grayed down than say that. Let's start to play with some armor right here. Especially up here on his little steam thing. Maybe we do some rust effects on that. And you can see I'm just using that pale green. We're going to mix that in there. Green and purple actually make a really nice gray. I just don't use the dead grays. And by dead grays, I mean, light gray, dark gray, whatever. They're just very dead grays. They have no actual color to them at all. Just taking blue and black, mix those together, see what you get. I'm pretty sure you'll say, that's kind of neat. I'm pretty sure you'll say, oh, well, we may take green and black and mix that together. Now here, probably going to end up using more of a gold on that, and maybe this ends up being more bronze than anything. Yeah, let's try that as bronze. No, it's probably, no. I don't think that would do well as a flamethrower, which I see this as being right here. So yeah, we'll just keep this some kind of iron type color, so maybe some sort of darker metal, which is why we are going to reflect some of our fire on that. It looks like, I think it'll reach, besides their magic glowing skulls. I mean, what the heck? They're magic glowing skulls. Now we'll save that to be maybe more gold. You can see it doesn't take long after all the messy stuff that we did at the start. Well, now it starts to look a little bit like something. Looks like we got sort of an armature there, a little bit of a, yeah, we got another one over here. Yeah, let's get some of our blue gray. We can go purple gray. We can go all kinds of different grays. Welcome aboard, everybody that's watching, and for all you folks that are seeing this after the fact. Who knows, maybe more of you will see it after the fact because of the craziness with the mic being muted. That was just really weird. And all of these headset mics, they all have mute buttons in the worst imaginable place. You're almost guaranteed to hit it. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, actually. So again, we're just starting to, while we wait for that to dry a little bit, we're just working into some of our cooler grays. And cooler could mean more green. Well, heck, we're using pale green as essentially like a highlight color. This this is more really mid-tones that we're doing. That I might make that actually not just a, yeah, we'll do that, maybe a different color. Maybe that's where we go bronze or gold-ish. Yeah, so again, see on the opposite side of that, like I said, we got cool on one side and some warm on the other. I'm gonna boost one of my lights here at least for the time being. Also have to start to think about things, well, reflected light. It's metal. That people always say, so how do I do the non-metallic metal? I said, well, the idea, concept, kind of simple. You've got to have as much reflected light as you can. Metal's a reflective surface. It is what it is. And it's handy that it's a reflective surface because it's essentially telling you exactly what colors you need to put there. Well, like the object source lighting tells us, well, we need orange in a certain place. Let's say he was walking on a green marble floor. Well, guess what? Everything that's facing down towards the floor best have some green in it. Let's say for some reason he's wearing a bright yellow cloak or something like that. Well, you best have some yellow in the parts of his armor that are closest to the cloak, because otherwise it ain't gonna make much sense. Let's go. I'm gonna go back into my fluorescence here again. This is the golden acrylics fluorescent. Now, you have to realize that unlike, say, the Vallejo fluorescents that maybe some of you have seen me use in the older tutorials, this is kind of the opposite of those. It is super thin. However, it actually covers very well, which is interesting. That's usually not something that goes hand in hand. Usually not something you see happen kind of at the same time like that. I got to figure out where's that line got to be. Again, it's facing towards the flaming skull over there, so we better get ourselves some flames working there. You can see we're starting to, it starts to build here. Now we're going to go back into our, over here, because we got to get the lighting on this. Like so. As they're not going to do that over here, there's no reason to over there. But we got to get some over here because, and you see it's kind of a linear type thing. You know what? We actually got to hit some of this too. Now, you can see how comparatively, I don't want to say dark, but that's not going to be the fiery yellow glow like what we've got there. Now, another thing to consider too, when you're doing the object source lighting, just get a little bit more here. I don't know how many times I've seen I wish I could do the air quotes thing, where I see the lighting is darker than the thing that's supposed to be lit. Makes no sense. So in that case, you've got to either make your object source lighting lighter or darken the heck out of that somehow. And it's just, I keep wondering what do people think? What are they thinking when you've got object source lighting that is darker than what is lighting? That it makes no sense whatsoever. And I just keep wondering, how do they not see that? Typical thing. Let's pick on what's his name, Gandalf here. White cloak, white this, white that, and then they want to do the blue glowing staff, and they'll have a really nicely painted white cloak. That's cool. But then there's this dark blue stuff on there. I'm thinking, what is that? And it turns out that's supposed to be the glow from his staff. And, well, that's an awful dark glow, I would say. And that's usually the problem that folks run into. It's the reason why I try to start off with the glow, because then right off the bat, I know just how intense it needs to be. Now, even the glow itself can change. Some parts of it maybe are more yellow than others, some are more red than others. Now, the nature of this guy here, some parts, as I twist him around, you may not be able to see. Let's go back into this here. Now, yeah, there's a whole bunch of wet paint in all those initial glazes down in there. Those are still actually wet. But this is where, even though this is a giant brush, I can still use the side of it here. And still keep dropping some paint there. Think with the metal surfaces, they are going to reflect more of that light. Like his glove here, if it's not an armored glove, there's bits of metal on it or whatever fashioned around his hand, his fingers, well, then that probably not going to have quite the sparkle, I would say, as his armor's going to have. Boy, I have to keep reminding myself that all of the things I said in that video I was recording, I haven't said yet here. So one of the reasons I did that, it was like some of the Patreon videos that I do, they're actually more about just the idea, the concept, rather than here is how you do X or Y or Z. That one was a little bit more, okay, why would you do the object source lighting? What's the advantages of it? For me, I'll do an entire army with object source lighting. Doesn't matter to me. Actually, makes it easier to come up with a color scheme for it. So here we go. We'll just get some more lighting right here. We'll continue, add some more yellow there. Now it's really more of the orange. There's a touch of yellow in it. Let's get some right over here. This is an even thinner line. Even thinner line right along there. And we'll just, we don't want to overdo it. Just a couple of points of light there. How's about some more? Now again, when this dries here, like I say, you can still see those initial glazes are still wet there. Go back in there. I can actually go back into the base now. We're going to get some of this, and that's the pale yellow, I think it is. We're going to get some of the fluorescent yellow because we want these things to basically be burning practically white hot. So we just actually made the eyeballs even lighter than they were before. Yeah, I mean, those are not LEDs in there. Those are actually, that is actual paint. That's all it is. And I'm going to see, okay, let's figure out what is going to happen over here. Closer we get to that, so you can see how the lighting effects just get a little bit more intense. Closer we get to that, this right here for sure. On his leg there definitely needs to be nice and bright. I will eventually get to a smaller brush too, don't worry about that. I can go back now. I'll go back to my more of the orange look here. Brighten that up a touch. And I'll go obviously back to the other side of it. That might not be quite so exciting and interesting, where it's going to be a lot more balancing out those different grays that I was telling you about, something more greenish gray, maybe something that's a little bit more towards blue. But you can see we're focusing out as stuff recedes, then moves away from our light sources down here. Now let's go in here and we'll hit this a little bit. They got some panels right here that definitely could use right there. That was 3. We definitely need some here. Let's get this. There are some runes, it looks like, on one side of them there, just on the other side of this. Oh, it's not everything. As fast as I do things, I can't necessarily do absolutely everything in one of these. So there will probably be things when you see the finished pictures of this. It may look a little bit different. It's just where I had to go back in after the fact and maybe add something, whatever, that I just didn't have time to show, or maybe it wasn't going to show up on camera so well. I see that Instagram down there. You check that out. That's where a lot of finished images are. I just posted some finished images of, that was another Patreon video that I did that was not object source lighting. It was some nice non-metallic metal, but with snow effects and icicles and that sort of thing. But yeah, you're looking for finished images. That is the place to go. There's lots of stuff there. So you can see we're starting to, same thing there. We're starting to add a little bit of that fiery glow from there up onto our axe. We're going to start to work on this area here. Start to brighten this up around the skull. I realize that the axe is kind of getting in the way of that. Let's do a little more here. Yeah, see, that was even there, as close as that light source is, it got a little too yellow too fast. No, Bruce says adding the white just blew my mind. It is. I'll look exactly at the name of the color. It's got to be one of the new ones, and I think it is. That's pale yellow. Yeah, that one right there. Now, I also, oh gosh, was Bright Ivory is another one. That is a really nice, it's an off-white. Well, there's, for those of you that are newer here and haven't seen the videos 1,000 times, what don't you see on the palette? You just really don't see that straight up white color. You'll see some kind of, something in there that takes it away from that straight up white. Here, let's go a little bit further here with our glow. You can see how if we're going to have a glow there, we have to sort of march this a little bit closer to that glow, like we do over here too. Same thing. Now this is where the translucency of the fluorescents are really helpful, right? Because some of the stuff that's underneath that will show through. I know that that can really be difficult for people as they try to get used to this. And after that series that I did, what was it, the Haradrim Raiders, where I was trying to get used to a paint that was way, way thinner than I thought it was going to be. I wonder if it's almost a paint that's better suited just to, say, glazing than actually being used in the way to say the creature castaway, because those paints, though, they cover like crazy, and even the transparents will cover. I mean, not quite like the your regular paints, but well, you hope if someone's gonna launch a new paint line that, well, there's some reason for it. There's something different about it. So we're just establishing our glow here. Oh, let's see. Ben asked, aren't the lighter tones still white mixes though? No, I like to use, well, I don't know if you've seen much of the older ones with things like look at Maiden Flesh, and what was the other one? Oh, Maggot White. So these are the two Reaper colors used to use all the time. Well, just think of this as your Maggot White, and think of this maybe as your Maiden Flesh. They're off whites. They're not white. I mean, to me, that is my white over there. See that green that I'm pointing to? Oh, Bethany says not the lone voice in the wilderness, but not a big fan of OSL. Well, that is fine. Not everybody is. Actually, I know I know other folks that just now some folks they just kind of have it. There's a little bit of it where, well, I hate non-metallic or I hate metallics or something like that. They just kind of don't like it. Then there's other folks that, and I can understand that. For me, probably it's the 2D painter in me that's coming through because, well, when you're a 2D painter, everything you do is non-metallic. Everything you do is OSL. I mean, you have to literally superimpose shadow and light on a painting because it has no shape of its own. At least the miniature has some kind of shape. So that I suppose that could explain it. I mean, I actually have a blog post that explains why we do non-metallic metal. Now, in that last video that I there was it the last live session where I was working with the Turbo Dorks and we were doing the TMM, right? That is it's well, Kathy, she's using non-metallic metals on her string and she's having a heck of a time getting that to show up on camera. It is an absolute nightmare to try and film anything with metallics. So if you don't see me using it, it is because it is just nigh impossible to film. And I know I got a few messages to read there, but I'm trying to take advantage of actually a little bit of some wet blending here. So just bear with me for a second. Oh, it's Ben again. I don't have any of those, so I was wondering if I can mix one and get the same effect or not. Well, take a look at some of the older videos. You'll see me using the Reaper paints, the clear, like I would use the transparents. Not well, I have tons of videos where I was using what is that, the contrast paints. So think of Reaper clear and liner paints, think of the contrast paints, and think of the transparents. To me, they're not all the same. I mean, there's definitely different properties, but I use them in the same way. Just check out I think you've seen the contrast paints, right? Where I'm mixing those with regular, more opaque type stuff, right? And here, let's get a little purple into this. You notice we got a sort of a linear thing going here, just like we got with our object source lighting over there. And we're just trying to transition that a bit. Now we need some object source lighting down here. Okay, here we'll take some of this. We'll mix it with the transparent brown here, and we're looking for kind of a middle tone, basically trying to do that floor color there. And we're just sort of sketching this in right now. I guess that's another term that people use. I just say blocking it in. Everybody uses a sketch. So we got the blue line, the pink line, sort of, and then the orange line, which if you're in Chicago and you're looking to, well, I'm not quite sure how many people are taking the orange line downtown, but that's the Midway. That's the train that goes from Midway Airport to downtown, and well, that's the one that we would take to get down there. Not that anybody's going down there at all. That's for sure. So yeah, I've got to remember to do some of the gold stuff over there. But over here, now that we've started, let's do a little bit more here. You can see we've got some of that. Basically, it's an ever increasingly dirty gray, which is what we kind of want. Where we're gonna take some more of that, pale green. And then says, oh, I meant the lighter colors. I can mix white with a little other color, make my own maiden flesh. You can. You can do that. It's as soon as white gets in there though, it's gonna be at more risk of becoming chalky because maiden flesh, while there's some white mixed in there, obviously to make it that color, it's maybe a little bit more subtle and controlled than just mixing white with another color. I know I've done it. I've kind of had to. Well, I didn't have the maiden flesh or whatever, and I had to sort of make my own. It can be done. And I'm not even sure well, I don't think they make that specific color anymore. It doesn't matter if you don't have that. I mean, there's a million other flesh tones. It's a light flesh tone. That's all. A super light flesh tone. Well, it's not really a flesh tone. I mean, when you compare it to anybody's skin, it is like beyond vampire white. So there you have it. Now again, I'm gonna go back to the object source lighting, but for right now, gonna play with this. Oh, let's get some of that over here too. And you can see this, I mean, it's basically the same color as what I was using on the base. Let's not get that dark over there, or that light. Let's put it over here where we actually really want that to go. So this is the same thing over here that we have illuminated, except this time now it's not just darker, it's also, and look at how much more gray and muted that is than all of that super bright object source lighting there. Oh, no, we'll just have that. Just do some kind of generic metal color. Now let's go a little more with our green here and get some lighter tones there on that metal. Yeah, we stick with that sort of linear approach there. But remember we talked about having the underneath here, got to do some kind of reflected light. Well, that's where we got this in here for. So we're going to turn this upside down, and now we're going to do this. Do that on a few places here. Even going to let a little bit of the yellow creep in there. So we're not trying to make anything that's gold. We're just trying to get a little bit of variety in that color. So we got reflected light there. Yeah, let's even do a little more reflected light over there. Let's take that color there. That's that pale yellow. So you can see we get a whole different shade of gray. Now it's got a little more of a, basically, for lack of a better term, a sky blue tone. I'm going to throw some of that here on the axe head. And I am going to just let me bring up something over here. Okay. There. Looking to get more of this bluish color worked into the metals there. And we're also going to flip over here. Now we're going to start to bring some of this in. Juxtapose this with all of that. We've done all the object source lighting. We got to actually get something else on here besides just oranges, because some of this is not actually going to be hit by the light source there. And we've got some dials here. We'll just start to think about making those lighter. And we've got his face there. Won't focus too much on that. I'll see what I can get in there as we go along with this. Yeah, avoids the chalkiness. Ben says, I wonder how that works if they're mixing their pigments at the same way. I'm thinking that they can lighten it with something else that's not just straight up white. Although maybe that's what they do. Never really had a chance to talk too much with Anne when she was over at Reaper. She did show us the paint making area, but we never actually really got to see the paint being made, which is hilarious. And what, 7 years almost of Reaper cons, and we actually did get a chance to cast miniatures. That was really fun. That was actually one of the really fun things that one year, getting to do that at ReaperCon. Here, let's continue with, this is that same, so it's got a little more blue in it. And if at any point the metals just get too bright or something like that, well, you can always tone those down, that's for sure. And now, just like on the other side, now I'm gonna start to find, because we got all the bright light there, we can't just have nothing but object source light. We gotta have some more light here, and that's what we're going to try and find. Have to make sure though that ambient light doesn't get, say, brighter than the illumination, because then it's not going to look like it's lighting it if the figure itself is lighter than your light source. It's just, that's kind of how it is. Oh, let's just throw some lights along here. I can always knock that down with some sort of a glaze. We are going to hit the barrel here again. Again, thinking about the linear, just working along this line here. We need to get the armature hit. There might be some leather straps in there too. I did not really have any chance to, we'll just study this figure in advance. I'm pretty much, even though I assembled it, I know about as much about it as you do. Maybe you even know more than me, because who knows? Maybe you're doing the Kings of War thing and it's already in your army. And I had, well, back in the, I think it was version 2, I was trying to take a certain army that had undead guys in chariots with horses that were called Shmoom things, and try to adapt those. I was Empire of Dust, I believe, is what the Kings of War version was. So we were briefly trying to do that. That army's all been sold off, so I don't have that anymore. So any Kings of War stuff I do, it's gonna have to be brand new. And I'm gonna try and do some Kings of War army painting series. You saw that, the army painter pledge level right there. Again, if you're new, what that's all about is I'd take a group of figures anywhere between, let's say if it's cav, there's probably going to be a half a dozen or so. And if they're infantry, 10, 11, 12, something like that. Sometimes it's a mix of cav and other things. And the idea is that I try to take you through the entire process of working through that unit, from basing color test figure, like say this would be a color test figure, because there'd be a unit of 3 of these, right? Well, what's the question we're trying to answer? How long does it take? Is it worth trying to do this effect on an entire, well, not just an entire unit of these guys? What if it was your whole dwarf army? Would you want to do this that many times? And we actually will time things. We'll say, all right, that bit of freehand, well, that just took 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then we'll multiply it. And then say, well, okay, this is this unit. There's 2 of these units in the army. So now you multiply the multiply. And then you say, well, that's going to take several extra hours just to add that one little effect. Is it worth it? That is a constant discussion all the while we're doing that army painting series. Now, the other advantage of that is that you get, oh, darn near 350 hours of tutorials. Because, yeah, well, it was really chugging along there. I was practically adding almost 4 hours of tutorials every 36 hours or something like that. And then, well, then the current situation happened, and that slowed the roll just a wee bit, kind of like it did for all of us. So you can see we're starting to now get some light on the other side. Let's find a little bit more here. And you can see we got thinking in terms of this chain of highlights. I talk about all the time. Anything that's got non-metallic metals in there, you're just going to hear me talking a lot about the chain of highlights. See how it's kind of broken too? See how that just continues all the way along there. So just like that. I don't know. I don't want to get too light with that too fast. So I'm gonna take a step back here. Bit of a step back. We'll start to work on this, whatever this tank is here, filled with something that is apparently quite flammable. And we're gonna see if we can throw a little bit of face color in there. I'm just taking some of that transparent brown. Like I said, I will probably just have to do that off camera at some point because it's going to be real tough for you to see. The angle I'd have to hold him at, I really don't know if you'd be able to see actually what the heck I'm doing. So you can see this is, even without using any kind of a smaller brush, we've already started to balance. You've got your lighting on one side. Let's see if we can't maybe do something that's a little bit more like gold. We're going to take a touch of that orange there, mixing it with our transparent brown. So we've got ourselves sort of a dirty ochre color there. And let's just see if we can't make his helmet have some gold on it. I mean, it's dwarf after all. But that gold, it can't be quite so. It's got to be a different sort of yellow. Gotta basically sort of avoid the orange. Well, that means maybe throwing a little more green into it. Maybe these. That could be a little more interesting as a gold, I think. So we're making a change. That's the other benefit of this whole approach, the shaded base coat approach, right? Because I'm just making a change right here on the fly. I said, you know what? Let's maybe make that gold. Here, let's have some here too. But now the thing is, I'm using those transparent colors, right? Even some of the fluorescent yellow, the transparent yellow, all of that bluish gray that's underneath there. Well, guess what? That is showing through. Keeps my so-called gold colors from getting too bright and yellowy too fast. I don't want to say a tarnished gold or whatever. Nice. I can see some runes over here. I'm just gonna mark that. It's more of a reminder to me to just say, hey, that is going to be some kind of gold. Yeah, I can see a whole bunch of runes all along that. Is there anything? Other areas here. So right away, see now we get some separation between those areas, not area. Go back to the top of his helmet. And the thing is, now that's starting to actually, some of the blue that I never really washed out of the brush, I was hoping that would start to mix with the so-called gold colors, and it is, and that's helpful. Now, if I actually take just a touch of the white and add that in there, or it's the off-white again. Yeah, let's get a little bit of that transparent yellow. So say that would be Reaper Clear Yellow, something along those lines. And now I can start to bring out some of these golds here. It's kind of similar what we did with the fire effect, right? Same thing now with the golds. I know for folks that haven't really seen this before, they're not, they're used to well, you do that initial layer, right? You base coat it. Yeah, it's just a base coat. You take a flat color, you paint it there. Maybe you glaze it first, or maybe you do they'll dry brush something over it or whatever. This is, well, it's a little more free form, but it's a lot more free form than that. We're also working on the whole figure at one time. You can see that. We're not just, well, we're going to work on this and nothing else. And we're going to leave everything else just be primer. And then we'll be kind of confused when all of a sudden we go to look at it and we say, oh, wait a second, why does that not look quite right? Or why is that too dark? Well, let's say you primed in black. Everything against black looks light. Let's go the opposite way. You prime in white. Everything next to white primer looks dark. But because the first thing I did was establish the glow, then I knew, okay, let's not get too bright with this. And by this, I mean all these other colors here, the highlights and all these colors. Just kind of keeps that under control. Oh, Brody has to take off here. Time to watch the Bulldogs AFL. Wait a minute. Uh, I they're playing games, or is this? Well, no, it can't be preseason. They have to be playing their first. They got to be playing their first game. Well, you'll have to let me know what happens. Send me updates because I can't keep track of it right now. But well, basically all sports are canceled here, so I just kind of figured that so was footy. So, well, have fun, Brody, and enjoy. And well, let's if, let's hope the lads can actually make some hay here or in the early season, not like last season. They were what 1-3 or something like that, or oh gosh, it's something like 3-5. It was not the grandest start to a season last year. Well, thanks for dropping by. Now let's see. Look at it. We can start to add some lighter indications of gold here, but it's not a super bright shiny gold, at least not yet. Maybe in some areas I'll do that, but now you can definitely see we got the differences between the two there. We're going to actually work a little bit of purple into this, some green, because hey, green is always mixed into gold. People say, what in the world is up with that? Actually, a lot of people probably aren't really sure what the Bulldogs are or footy. That is my Aussie rules football, which, of course, is a favorite, especially here in this household. Well, thanks for everybody that is watching this. I hope that this is some kind of distraction from just the less than fun stuff that's pretty much all around us at this point. So I can see we start to work in more and more. There's a long way we can go with our lights here as well. But that's going to be sparse there. Like I said, I'll get out the smaller brushes. We'll be working with those. In fact, it's probably going to be pretty soon that I start to work with a smaller brush besides this monstrous thing here. That's the other thing that typically kind of freaks people out is just the massive brushes, makeup sponges, using your fingers. It's all quite alien. Before I get too involved with it, I do want to work some other stuff in. So I'm going to try and do a few more highlights right here. Some more here. Always thinking that light to dark. So here, obviously, we're getting lighter down here, but then you have your highlight up there. That's typical sort of non-metallic metal thing. Now I'm going to get got these little gauges over here. Just going to hit those. We will go back into those at some point. And you can see just how much lighter. This is not even white. I can still actually go lighter than this. Can still go lighter than that. Working at just a couple of edges along his helmet here. You're trying to lead into, well, you want the face to have some kind of center of interest. It's tough, especially when you got your lighting down here. And now you can see all of that stuff is dry. So we could really go back in there too if we so chose. But I'm going to take some of the pale green there, and we are going to try and here on the right here on that the support that armature there, the hydraulics. Get some lighter colors up there too. And then that stack there, I may or may not try to do some kind of soot up there. May or may not. It depends. Also here, another one of those. I'm gonna find another set of. Right, let's get. Oh yeah, we gotta get this armature over here too. Ah, Rope says you still have sports events earlier. You have nothing here in Finland. We got the exact same thing here. The NCAA was canceled. NBA season, Major League Baseball, XFL, even in the NFL, they're doing their free agency stuff, and well, players can't physically sign. They can't physically have physicals. The combine was shut down. I can't imagine they're going to have, well, they say they're going to have the draft. I don't know how. I mean, you could do it electronically, I suppose. But, well, I'm pretty sure, well, we won't speculate about those things, but I do know that basically, I don't think we're going to have any sports here for months to come. Because even, let's say, tomorrow, they say, okay, everything's gone. You can start playing games again. They're almost going to have to take 2 weeks just to get back into playing shape. And that's in any sport. I don't care what the heck the sport is. It's soccer, basketball, hockey, football. Heck, and some of them might even take longer to get back into shape. I would think so. I just think if I haven't painted in a few days, yeah, let's say I've had to do basing or we're at a convention or for whatever reason haven't had a chance to paint, it's rough. I mean, that's just sitting there painting. That's not actually getting tackled, getting hit, getting thrown at, whatever. Here, let's go back. Oh, my transparent brown kind of got zonked there, so I'm just going to make, speaking of making your own mix, that's what we're doing right there. And I want to get some over here too. Yeah, I might try and do maybe some rust effects in that, so I'm not going to try and make that too pristine for sure. I am going to throw a little bit of my transparent black out here again. Let's see if I can do some, I see some exhaust things here, so let's just try and, where those go? Here. Gotta get some, I'm gonna get a little touch of water in there. Again, that is the nice thing about your ProAcryls there. So what I'm gonna do is just really hit that hard. Still have sponges. And you can see how we change that really quick. No big deal. Oh, I see. Ah, there they are. It's a couple of them over here, and I'm going to do a similar thing. Just take some water. It's just a quickie little glaze right here. Nothing of any, no big deal. That's better. We're going to maybe do a similar thing in there. And now let's go deeper. You can't see it, but there's a gap back there. We go. Just trying to fill in a few areas here with some darker glazes real quick. And we're going to get a little bit of purple into that so that because we don't want to just use black. I know you can't really see much of what's going on there. It's pretty dark. I know it's not the most interesting of locales to check out there. But it's kind of needed. Because sometimes to have light, you've got to have dark. Even here, because the light is, you're going to have these shadows here. Like over here, right, I'm just trying to, there we go. Now I can get to that. So again, I'm going to drop in some darks into here. I don't need that to be quite that much, say, orange over there. And when you throw in your lighting effects early on like that, just it makes that process of making the adjustments easier, so much easier. Work on his pack again over here. So I'm liking the idea of the rust on that. Let's see what we can do up here on his axe. Just going to give that quick little glaze too, because it can't just be adding one highlight after another. Sometimes you actually have to go back in there and you got to add some darks again. Speaking of darks, I'm going to just do a little bit of that right there on the other side of, I almost called it the lava glow again. It is not a lava glow. However, what we're going to do, we're going to take something along the lines of this. Got crazy green that we're making here. There. Work some of that into these golds also. Most people are just not even going to realize that's what's in there. May need some of this green for those different gauges and such. Now I've got well, you can't even see that. Just bear with me while I shove some of this sort of dark purple black mix into some of these crevices here. That's the thing about these type of poses, casts, whatever. They're going to have some hard to reach areas for sure. There, see, that's got a little more oomph to it now. Gonna go back to my sponge here. We'll wipe some of that excess away. Let's grab a smaller brush here. I'm also going to grab me something to drink, so just bear with me for a second. All right, smaller brush acquired. I'm going to make ourselves a bit of a kind of a golden green. So it's green, but you can't really tell. It just looks like another gold color. And when you mix the colors like this, you're using existing colors and you're sort of making new ones. You get this is something I call color unity. What does that mean? It's nothing fancy. It just if most of the figure is, I don't know, purple, to all of a sudden have something that's bright lime green in just one spot, that gets to be a little bit jarring. And that's the idea, is to kind of keep that cohesiveness with the other colors. There's a reason why that color just happens to be in there instead of just some random thing, because that's what happens when you have an isolated color. It just doesn't. People say, well, where the heck did that come from? It's one thing if you're, say, doing some object source lighting or whatever, and maybe that's where, but even you still have to have it somewhere else to some degree. Like, yeah, I'll even move that. I'm going to actually use some of that down here, maybe. Maybe even here on the floor. So plenty of places to go with that. So I'm using some of the fluorescent, mixing that off-white with it to get it a little bit brighter. And then we start to maybe work out a few things that maybe are brighter. Some shapes here on this gauntlet. On the axe, maybe this is going to not just be that sort of grayish metal color. I'll hit a little bit of gold on that or something. Oh, we're back to our greenish color. I do want to get a little bit of orange into this, like that. And yeah, it's sort of a reflective. See how we walk it up to that darker color there. There. Now we can, like I said, we can do a few areas that are warmer like this. But yeah, we do too many, then is this going to conflict for attention with all of your glow over there? Here, let's get a bit more. So that's more of your reflected light, say there. I'm going to do a similar thing over here. I don't even know if you can see that. I hope you can. And you can see this again, not a white, but look at the difference that makes, because we've been saving that particular, that highlight, saving that for a little bit later in the process. You see what that did on his shoulder over there. Let's see if I can't get him some eyes here. Oh, there they are. Boy, those are deep set eyes. Holy smokes. Let's see if we can't crank up a little bit of skin toner. I got something that's kind of on the reddish side. It's more of a grayish red. I mean, he's a dwarf after all, so basically he has his nose and his eyes, and you see a little bit of his mouth, and rest of it's mustache and beard for the most part. And that's about it. Can't really tell if he's wearing a glove at all there, or if that's an armored glove, something along those lines. I would think it would be more vaguely glove-like. Oh, hey, Jacob. Oh, it's a lot of the events and stuff are being canceled. Not all are. Oh, yeah, definitely all canceled. Well, actually, what wasn't canceled, did congratulations. It was I think it was something on the Hobby Hangout, right? I do believe I saw your, oh, it was your sub. Well, it was one of those tunes, right? It was like the tune tanks, but it was a sub. And I'm pretty sure I thought I saw the Jacob Richards name attached to it. And well, you've been doing the tunes stuff of late. So if that was you, hey, congratulations on that. I know an awful lot of folks, they had been really working hard on, well, Adepticon entries of various types, not just Golden Demons, Mantic. I had stuff. I practically had more stuff that I could put in the Mantic painting contest than I could in the GW one. Yeah, because I had all the, oh, what the heck is it? The Hellboy stuff. Yeah, I had all that. And yeah, just to check out the Mantic Hellboy playlist on the YouTube channel here. Was there three? I think there's at least three tutorials there. And you can check those out. That's definitely some Hellboy. Oh, good. I still got some of that transparent brown left. I try and make the mustache darker and then make it later. But I want to give his nose it's a little bit of that Santa Claus rosiness. Let's see if we can do that. You probably won't even be able to see it, unfortunately. That was a Toon Tank sub. Okay, I was not wrong. Now I didn't get that. I'm assuming Kriegsmarine on that, as opposed to a Thresher type sub class or something like that. More of an American type sub. Assuming it's a little bit of Kriegs there. So yeah, just practically putting some pink in there. We talk about color going everywhere. How's about that? We're just spreading some pink around here. Same thing we just used on the skin tone. It's out of control. It's crazy. Let's see if I can't get a little bit of skin tone down in there. Nah, it's yeah, just looking to get something on there aside from all the other colors we already got. I think I could. It might not be one of the Toon tanks. Maybe it is. It was. I think it was a T-3476. I'm guessing that's what it was. Could be wrong. If it was, I know it was a T3476. I just know it was a T3485. Never mind. But I don't know if it's one of the official tune tanks or not, because they wanted me to mess around with that. Maybe one of these days I might get a chance to. I think. Well, let's see. You had the one that was wasn't it the tiger that was in the? No, that was the Sherman in the martini glass. I think it was. Man, I think it was a Sherman in a martini glass. Now I'm gonna start to focus again because we've been away from our lighting stuff for a while. So let's just head on back to that a little bit here. Again, that is the your fluorescent orange there. Looking to get some lights back into my axe head here, or axe blade. Okay, let's do some more. I've been away from this for a while. We've been working on all the other areas here, trying to bring those up to. Like I said, at the end of this, there's always going to be, well, ironically enough, end screens that show you similar tutorials. I also, in the description, I'm going to have some more links for you, just similar things. Other object source lighting videos, maybe even some basing videos. And the other thing to do is check out the playlist. So I don't know if I have a specific object source lighting playlist, but I'll have like a basing techniques playlist. You want to check that out. And obviously, if you're going to do the subscribe thing, for whatever reason now, you have to click on the all notifications bell, which I just earlier today, I think I subscribed to another channel and of course forgot to click the all notifications bell, so I will not get the notifications. I'm not quite sure it's then why actually have a subscribe button if they have to hit the all notifications. Might have something to do with we're all on mobile devices these days, and maybe that's what it's more geared for. Is you hit the all notifications and you'll get notified on your phone. So we are going to bring up just a touch. Not over here because I'm thinking his leg's actually going to block that. So we won't go quite that far then. Oh, let's go back into the area of our skulls over here. We're going to try and brighten up some of the area around those guys too. Yeah, let's do that right around here. Oh, Josh Barons is working from home. Software on 2 screens and masterclass on the third. Boy, that's well, thank you very much actually for that. Much appreciated. But I actually have where I'm trying to do the basing, or not the basing, the terrain tutorial videos. I actually have a second screen there. Boy, I've actually needed more up here because, well, for whatever it's, I'm sure it's, well, it could be YouTube and or XSplit. I don't know. It's one of those two. But alternately, the chat goes away, things go away, and I cannot keep track of them. There's no way I can have all that up on this one screen. So I think at a certain point, I'm going to have to go multi-screen here. Don't be surprised if you even, well, I don't know, if this area somehow looks a little bit different, because I may have to change this to have a bigger filming area. Now, hopefully, things aren't too crazy by you. Just it's more of the fact that I've been just so insanely busy. I've pretty much been up most of the last, oh gosh, I think at this point it's 96 hours, which is why if my talking makes no sense, which it kind of really already doesn't, that would explain it. Just beyond extreme fatigue, because it has been with Adepticon being zonked, and well, now in Little Wars 2, so I lose that one. And I'm just going to make assumptions that that will continue. Oh, yeah, I guess I should. Well, there's some things that are kind of little secret projects with other companies I can't quite talk about. But for the Patreon page, sometime in this coming week, not this one, since well, it's mostly over anyways. I'm gonna try and work out a new set of pledge levels for the Patreon page, and the idea is simple. The mechanics are complicated. I want to institute a one-on-one, basically, class, right? Where it's just you and me, and I essentially subject you to horrors like this all on your lonesome. You have no protection from others, and it'll be dead. If it's one-on-one, we can do it in a Google Hangout format, which is very cool because we're not trying to put it on YouTube or anything like that. So Google Hangouts are still fine for that. And then this way, basically imagine if you could just be talking to me right now and say, "Hey Jim, what was that you just did?" Or, "Hey Jim, could you just do that again? You know, whatever you just did there, could you explain that a little bit more?" It's a little bit faster than, well, you having to type something in. Oh, Ben says I've been at least two for 20 years. One, it is. I mean, cavemen with fire look at me and say, one monitor. What's the deal with that? Now it's not so much that I have monitors here. The reason there is no other monitor here is there's nowhere to put it. There is actually no space. It is all occupied by massive amounts of shelving units and miniatures and tons of stuff. It's basically occupying the space where that monitor would go if I could just have that. And boy, would it make a colossal difference. Because right now, just to see what I'm doing, I have to somehow look through two cameras, five lights, and my magnifier light to be able to actually see what it is that you see. That doesn't really make it very easy, that's for sure. All right, there's now the gauge is over here. Boy, I'm just going to put this on them and just to sort of knock them down a little bit here. They're tough to get to. And obviously, I'd like to have something more than just. So, yeah, that axe handle and the armor is really getting in the way here. So, I am not going to fool around with those very much here. Yeah, we're just going to abandon that for right now. Can't get to it. What I can get to is some of this armor here. We need to get some reflected light into there too. So we're going to go back over here. We got this sort of greenish color. right there. Yeah, that just all can't be a block of dark right there. That's not going to work. We got to do the same thing over here. Can you see it? I think so. Now, let's go into some of our... Again, I'm trying to make something that looks a little bit more like a gold color. Not quite so orangey. A highly technical painting term, that is, orangey. And later on, I can go back in and like the runes that are there on the armor on the bottom of his legs. Well, we can go back into that and play with that some more. Just look into there. So you're just gonna get on the top edge of that and the bottom edge of that. But these just ambient light highlights, those can't be so contesting of that as my overall light source there. Oh, Josh normally has 4 screens at work. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, for filming, I would not mind actually having a third. That would not be bad to have. Oh, and then he's watching old army painter videos and talked about maybe getting chimeras, and I think you know the story of how they were at our front door. The problem is we were 900 miles away in Texas with a hold mail, and because we were gone, we didn't know that someone had put a crumpled up piece of paper in our mailbox. So they sent them back to, what was it, to Spain. It took 2 months for those to go back to Spain. Now I have a feeling they were maybe going to bring at least some of what was in that box. They were bringing it to Adepticon because they had classes too. And obviously there's no Adepticon, and well, I would think that shipping some things is probably not really on the menu right now. So yeah, the chimeras, as much as I love them, and I tried them that one time, that is, I wouldn't see that happening anytime soon. Which is okay because there's a bunch of other things that, well, heck, I got to get back into my oils again. Oh yeah, that is the next. Oh gosh, I might try to film that tomorrow. Actually, depending on certain things. But making my own homemade oil brushers, well, the ones that I was going to have in the class. And yes, I had found, well, I guess it's a good thing I got them when I did, but a bunch of 1 ounce paint bottles, sort of like well, any standard paint bottle you would have now. Sorry, voices. I'm going to have to take something to drink here pretty soon. So I'm just taking yellow here. This is the transparent yellow, mixing it with transparent black, and that's kind of a neat greenish gold there. Oh, miniatures conversions and dioramas by Frankie on the subject of avoiding chalkiness. I got a tip to use Schminky finest artist acrylic white combined with a makeup brush. Oh, Schminky boy, that is, man, I haven't seen any of their stuff since art school. And you don't want to know how long ago that was. I ain't telling you that. It could be an interesting thing to try. Oh, it's the Bohuns. He does the kind of the stippling dry brush type thing. I actually, speaking of makeup sponges that are weird and different, I might give these a try. Here, different sizes, different types. So I mean, I haven't used them. Obviously, they were given to me by somebody who said, "Hey, you're always talking about makeup sponges," and uses those for cleaning barrels and not not wine barrels either. So I gotta give those a try. I'm gonna actually try and reflect a little bit of that gold over here. We're gonna go back over here. We've been on our other side for a while. Let's go back to this and let's bring out some lights here. Again, just sticking with. See how it kind of makes that line going across. Oh, it should maybe try and get some weathering on this too. What the heck? I could swear on one of the Cruel Seas videos I was seeing if I couldn't do some weathering effects with the transparent paints, mixing, say, like the orange and the black together to make a rust, which, well, that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to find out soon enough if that's going to work. Now, obviously, there's a lot going on with this guy here. I'm just focusing on some of the things. Because as much as I'd love to be able to do this for 4 more hours, well, there will be a point where fatigue's already here. I started the day with it. I basically started every day this entire week with it. But yeah, I'm gonna maybe do something like that here in just a few minutes and see what happens. So let's get ourselves now some more highlights that run down these edges here. Start to show those off a bit, and speaking of that reflected light, let's get in here with some like so there. Oh, I'm gonna go with some of your green there. I'm actually gonna, what the heck, mix a little bit of blue in with that. Just to bring out some of these panels here. Before I get over to that one area I was telling you about, where I'm gonna do let's bring some of that here too. On that side, just like we did over here. Yeah, let's go with some of that here on his gauntlet there. So we did that. Let us take, there's some of the transparent orange, some transparent black, and we'll make some kind of rust color. It might take a little bit of red in there. We will make that into a bit of a glaze, and now we're gonna, oh yeah, look at that. That's not a shabby rust color. There is something that's along the lines of rust. Yeah, look at that. Can do a little bit of streaking there. Let's get that down there. So another reason why you saw me using, say, stuff like the greens and other colors. Well, now what I'm doing here, that's gonna show up a little bit more, let's say, without having to only do light versus dark and that sort of transition. I've got basically, in some ways, a red versus green. We're gonna do some of that here too. And we're gonna try some of that also here. Not so much like the dwarf would let his stuff rust, but maybe because of the chemicals or whatever that's involved to make his little flamethrower thing here work. That's why you've got a little bit of this happening to it. let's take a little more of the orange here. We're gonna touch of that yellow. It's sort of I know I've used the the Green Stuff World liquid pigments. That's what they call them. Used some of those recently. I've used the Secret Weapon weathering paint, obviously for Rust. You can see all of those. I've got some videos just strictly on weathering stuff, so you can check those out for sure. I'm going to shove some of that in those crevices there. We are going to, let's go back to our darker rust color for in there. And you'll notice too that this head, since it's a bit more muddy, I even let some of the white get in there. It's not going to end up looking like my object source lighting color. Can't let those two start looking alike. Yeah, there's your fatigue. I'll do some here too. So we've been doing this, so what, a couple hours? Yeah, well, an hour, 51 minutes, and obviously there's hellos and goodbyes and greetings and farewells and the other kind of stuff, so you figure maybe an hour and 40 minutes of intensive work, I guess. You don't want to forget that yellow in there. And obviously we're going to focus on the areas like here where we've got crevices and things. You can see now the lighter color. I'm just adding a touch of the white with it, but for the most part you got the transparents that are involved with this. There's some more. They're just glazing in some of these rust effects here. Now let's go back to some of our lighter lights again. So that's more of a yellow. Oh, MCDBF. There we go. Next time I'll see if I can use the rust water for wash. Yeah, that's I just I thought yeah, I've made them out of other things too. Heck, I've made them out of the Reaper clear liner paints. You can sort of make your own rust. The idea is they have to be on the thinner side like that. Have to be able to gotta have some translucency to them for sure. Where am I? Ah, here I'm at. Over here. Now I'm gonna go back into my object source lighting here. We're going to try and find ourselves some lighter lights as we start to wind down here a bit. We're going to try and find some edges over here. Just all the while remember that at its heart, all of the fluorescent paints, they're going to be really, really transparent, translucent, whatever you want to call them. Just need to be aware of that. I'm going to see if I can't drop some more highlights on these. Not quite chains, it's more like clips or something. Oh yeah, we need to get some light under here. I just saw here we got this skull thing that we've got to get some light over here. Yeah, that didn't not much, didn't take a whole bunch. Just realizing. So like I said, there's some other areas with this I'm going to go over again. Oh, what the heck? Let's see if I can't maybe. Yeah, I don't think that orange would really reach his nose, but I don't know. It just seems appropriate to have at least a little bit of that reach his nose. Back to some of this whole panel here. I just think I need to get that a little bit lighter. This, again, where these runes are, let's see if we can pick up some of those. It only takes a little bit of the opaque ProAcryl paints to really make your object source lighting color all of a sudden become really opaque. It's something to be aware of. That needs, we need some definition over here. I know with the other, and I'll show you those again, the ones that I was just working on in one of the Patreon videos, there was a lot of conversation about what figures are just right for object source lighting. Some you think they're going to be great, and they turn out to not be so great. That something like this with all of these little doodads on it, and it's all metal, it's kind of an ideal subject here. So let's look at this one. So again, this is another one that had another Mantic figure here. This was a painting video that I got just recorded. There's lots of little things going on there that makes it kind of ideal. We got another one over here. And you can see we changed the color on it. So we got more blues up there. And we've got more warm green. So that was the fluorescent green mixed with some of the yellows to create this. But you can see there's just all kinds of little things going on under that. Look, we've got two types of object source lighting. We've got the flaming skulls again. So both Mantic figures is two very different subject matters. Oh, what now? Yeah, let's get something there. There's a lot of little things along here that need to be resolved. I think I even need to do some darker glazes just on that handle, period. Just going to try and work some flavor onto this axe head here. A few other areas. You can see I'm getting some more of the blue in there. Yeah, let's work some in here too. Okay, yeah, we had some darker stuff going on, but no actual real color to it, so that helps a bit. Let's get some lighter stuff here. Along this top, that's it. Okay, I knew there's gonna have to be several areas like this that we work into again. We need this, yeah, I knew I was missing something over here in this area. I think fatigue was just keeping me from really recognizing what the heck I had to do over there. There, so like I said, if you can drop a like on this or whatever, that's always good. YouTube likes that. If you can do the Patreon thing, like I said, you do the Army Painter pledge level. That's for 15 hours in a month. You get, well, at least if you're new, you're going to be buried in 300 plus hours, actually closer to drift closer to 400 hours of painting videos, which you now have ample time to watch. Heck, you might need me to just keep cranking them out that much faster for you, to keep up with the demand. But yeah, if you want to check that out and maybe give that a shot, I try to do as many different things as I can to try and describe the entire process for you. There's none of the magic, well, step 1, step 2, step 9, it's done. We don't have that going on because I didn't like that in art school, and you sure don't like that with miniature painting because that's not helpful. I'll just find myself a couple little lights here. Man, if anything else, you do the subscribe thing here, then you get to know when these are happening. I had the Twitch thing going, that was going great, and then all of a sudden my software here, the XSplit stuff, just for whatever reason, for me, it does not work anymore with Twitch, and I'm trying to set up OBS for that. So I do actually also have a Twitch channel that's the same as the Instagram. That's just Wapelius. Might try and do some IGTV stuff. That's also Instagram. So I think I'll be able to find more ways to keep you guys entertained and painting miniatures. At least I hope I can. Here, let's get the other side of this. Yeah, again, we're doing these linear things on that little cone shape there. Now, like I said, we will do some, because I can't get at it. The axe keeps bumping into the brush there, so I can only do so much here on camera for you guys. I have to hold it at a whole different angle where you can't see it, and that's kind of pointless. You really do need to be able to at least see what the heck I'm doing. I do want to thank everybody for, oh, there's Ben. Thanks for that. I know I was saying this at the end of the video that I recorded. I always say, well, thanks for the support, and I couldn't do this, that, or the other. Couldn't be doing the army stuff or the battle reports or the terrain stuff. Well, now there just would be no painting at all without the Patreon page, because that's going to have to be our particular lifeline now. Oh, I would suggest probably the whole rest of this year. Not that all conventions will be canceled, but the ones that happen in the future, they really don't bring in any income for us. It's really more just to kind of see people and help out some of the, like, Badger Airbrush at Gen Con and stuff. It's kind of to help out Ken, well, and George from Blackheart Models. So, let's get a little bit of this over here. Yes, it's gold, but we need something besides just yellows over there. And up here too. Almost like it's kind of reflecting. See some of that right there. I'd like to get in there. I don't know if I can. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of dark in there, and that's nice, but I need to get something more. That's going to be metal. Some other light's got to get down in there. See if I can do it. And yeah, some back here too. As much as I like the darker stuff there. And the whole thing here, you can see we didn't use a whole bunch of colors, yet we've got lots of different colors happening here. Now that, it gets some of this reddish color, but it needs now, okay, we'll do some there, and now we've got to do something along the lines of like this grayish Well, I could do it as gold. No, I'm going to do it just as the grayish blue over here. Let's just get the rest of this like that. Now, I will be, like I said, I have some Mantic figures from, say, the King's Award 2.0 that I could try and do some army painting series around. And if it's going to be the naiads, that would certainly be, well, some kind of aquatic type basing. I don't know if you do sort of an Atlantis type of a basing scheme with that, maybe. And then we would use the Turbo Doric paints to do some kind of, oh, almost pearlescent, right, type of skin on them. So now at this point, I'm just gonna find myself some highlights that are not as intense as the flame generated ones, but still, yeah, let's get ourselves a bit of a, yeah, that same bluish gray, and just like here, because the light sort of hits that a bit. That's better. Can't just a black hole right there. That's not quite right. Even though obviously it's going to be, you've got the gouts of flame going through that, and you would have, what would you say, some scorching there too. Oh, I see. Well, okay, there's other bits over here. I'm just gonna try to get some of these middle tones way down deep in here. You can't even really see necessarily. Oh, Ben, I'm interested in the painting class idea too. I've always thought since I'm in Japan, I never got to take one. Actually, well, so the like we've been talking about, the format of those one-on-one classes, there would be basically the hour-long version, the 2 hour long version, and a 4 hour one. I Obviously one's going to be more pricey or less pricey than the other, depending on how long it is. But at least initially, the idea is, let's say you want to know, okay, hey Jim, let's do a couple hours, and we'll try a couple of different snow techniques. Okay, I did a video on that once where I think I tried 5 different snow techniques or whatever, all on the same unit, just to compare them. But nobody could ask questions. I mean, it was a recorded video, so there was no audience, there was no studio audience or anything like that. So this would be something where you would get to say, "Hey, Jim, okay, now just I know this wasn't something we originally talked about, but could you try that type of snow effect and just combine it with this? Even if it doesn't work, maybe it will. It's an idea that I didn't think of. I thought that could be something interesting." Or you say, "Look, I need to see green object source lighting." Well, we'd find some kind of miniature, something that would be good, and we would do green object source lighting on it. Now, having that, what's it, the whiteboard app or a little plug-in that goes for XSplit here. You saw the Lord of the Rings battle report that I did. Well, that's, I'm thinking where you, depending on the quality of the pictures, of course, you send me a picture, I put it on the screen, and we can do the thing where we change the saturation, right? So, okay, we got him here like this. What happens when we go zoink and make him black and white? So you can see he still has all of his lights and darks and shape, but we lose that third and fourth type of contrast, and that is all of the warm versus cool, that sort of thing. Now that could be a really interesting idea. It is something that I've wanted to do, oh, good grief, for over a year. I mean, actually, maybe closer to 2 years. But the conventions, well, it was almost impossible to schedule around those. Scheduling around conventions just got a whole bunch easier. So that's why I'm thinking about those now, because if there's ever going to be a time when the conventions will not get in the way of scheduling things, this would be that time. And what is today? The 20th, so sometime in the next week or so, who knows, maybe by this time next week, that is the one of the new pledge levels there. Well, actually, it would be potentially 3 pledge levels. Then there's also some things that I'm working on with Creature Caster, some super secret things. Because obviously, what the tune of the day is virtual painting classes, right? Well, that's something we've been talking about and working on. That could be a very intriguing possibility, let's put it that way. It's again another one of those things that we've talked about for well over a year, but circumstances are different now, and things that were sort of impossible before are now possible. So you could say now I can, with everything else not just blocked in, but pretty well developed, we can go in here now and really start to maybe pick out some of our gold highlights. And they got those gauges in the back. We will mess around with those off camera because they're there's too much stuff in the way, unfortunately, for me to reach those easily. But now it's getting close to 5 in the morning here, so I will thank everybody for catching this. So like I said, if you want to go back, watch this from the beginning, and let's bring these other guys here. These were from a video that I finished earlier tonight. So there's Object Source Lighting Palooza right there. There you go. Well, thanks everybody, and I will catch you on the next live episode.